And now we have a video-audio combination also. The first item for this evening are minutes. We were going to take a look at some minutes. We're anticipating Tom will be here, but he thought he might be running a few minutes slow. Ron, I'm sorry Tom's not here, but I took a look at some other meeting minutes for different, some that Susan had done and some that somebody else had done. And I noticed that one of the things they do for their minutes when they're talking about them, they record in the minutes of like this evening the changes to the minutes they're discussing. So like on page 4, something's changing. And I've seen that in a few other places. I wonder if that would also be helpful besides the discussion we had last week where the version with all the marked up changes becomes a document at the end.
Why don't we, not a bad idea, but I think we ought to include Tom in that since it's going to affect him going forward. My only concern is that the verbiage tends to increase the minutes themselves. You know, it's on the tape if we need it. If we could get a clean copy to Mary, or at least look at her copy and agree on it, it kind of expedites things.
It was another way. I kind of like putting the rough draft with a markup as a document, like you suggested last week, so we don't need both, but I was just going to let you know I had seen that. And when there's a few, maybe it's an alternative. If there's a lot, maybe it's not a good idea.
Yeah,
anyway,
I would be fine with that too.
Okay. What I had noticed is I went through, and I don't know if you have them with you, but one of the old meeting minutes from when it was just you and I, from November 28th, I forget exactly when it came to me, but it came with the complete document list.
Okay.
Do you have a copy with you, or could we share this one and maybe we could wrap up an old one? Tom wasn't here anyway.
Yeah. What I did was I had another box like this with all my old notes, and I put it back in the car because I thought these were the only 3 we were going at. If you want to adjourn, I can step out and get it and come back in here.
Want to take a short recess?
We can either do that, or we can do the other 2 minutes that we have here that just you and I sat in on. And if Tom hasn't joined us, then take a recess and we'll do this one.
The only problem I have, Mary, is, do you remember, well, Ron and I had the discussions, to have them emailed to ahead of time, because now I have not looked at them at all.
I do, and if you saw the first email I sent out today, I said that actually we had built in extra time tonight because of the situation we're in with the budget and a number of other things.
Right, but that doesn't help me to refer back to my notes and have everybody just sitting here watching me. I don't like that.
I understand this was just the soonest we could get them out.
All right, if you don't mind, I would prefer to hold these new ones till I have time to look at them.
Although, I mean, Tom was hoping that you would get through the minutes tonight, and he said even if it was just about the minutes, really what we're focusing on right now is the meeting tomorrow night for the budget.
That's okay.
Plus some other deadlines here in town.
I just don't like doing it without time. And just having them flopped down in front of me has been discussed many, many times, and I've said, please email ahead of time. I think once we had a discussion to get them on Mondays for a Wednesday meeting.
Absolutely try and pull it, but there are so many things on the plate right now that this was not possible. So what Tom
I'm just saying I would hold them for next week then, because I'd like them in advance.
Right, but he was actually hoping that the board could go through these minutes, and even if they came back ready for approval, whatever, next time, that we would at least have made progress.
Then they needed to have been emailed ahead of time. That's all I'm saying. I understand his wish, but I understand what I need too. And I'm one of 3. So I would like them emailed so I have time to look at it.
I think it is that 2 of them are a page and a page and a half.
If you want to take a recess, I can pull that out. Which?
I had November 28th. I made a list for myself today to try to figure out where we were on some of these old ones. And some of them we have a draft, but we don't have the documents, so we probably really don't want to get into approving them, because then we'll have to go back and, But November 28th, I discovered somewhere along the line the past few weeks came with the documents.
Okay.
All right,
I'll be right back.
that's okay. So we're taking a couple minute pause. So Ron has time to get his copy. And 12. And that was probably our first longer meeting for Ron and I in November. I think the 20th we had a shorter.
Did you receive these? Just so I can get my copy. You know that?
I don't know, but
Yeah, let me
I
make
had
it
this
copy.
one, and if you, I printed this one, and then this was emailed, I think. Oh, wait, maybe I've got two, so maybe I can share one.
There's a document, this one.
1, 2, 3, and this one. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm just switching over to make it easy. This may be one of those where I didn't see too many changes, but I want to give you time to look it over.
Yeah, I might have
It's not
reviewed it, so
current.
give me a second.
No problem.
Give me 5 seconds to
Take
review
your
it.
time.
I didn't see the document list on it last time it was sent, and so I didn't even review it.
Did anything come to mind?
No. I mean, basically, it's in keeping with my notes and our discussion on the various things that we said we were going to be addressing.
I found a couple little typos,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering if, as small as they are, maybe I've got 5. Other than that, well, that's all I have. So I didn't know if maybe Jen would care to annotate them for now for the minutes, and we can decide if we don't want them in there, we can discuss after. She doesn't have to put them in. But she can capture the text of the conversation while we're doing it, and then we can figure out whether to put them in after Tom gets here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, we can give it a try.
Okay, all right. So I'm in the second paragraph under borrowing, because I don't think she has a copy of these.
I don't.
At her fingertips. Do you?
No.
Okay. And it's the second sentence, and it is basically on this, the 4th line down, so it says to vote on an article to allow borrowing or $205,000, I think it's of $205,000. So the or needs to be of. At the very bottom of the first page, under caucus, a motion was made, seconded by Ms. Lucart, just to correct the spelling. Instead of L-U-E-K, it should be L-E-U-K. I've gone to the second page. Second, I'll call it paragraph down, it says other items. A motion was made by Mr. Lucart. Maybe we want to make that MS instead of MR.
Second motion was made by...
Other items, a motion was made by Mr. Lucart.
Yeah.
The next paragraph under that, a motion was made by Ron Kohler, seconded by Paulette Lucart, just 2 L's in Paulette for spelling. The 5th, I'm calling it a paragraph, 5th section down, on that same second page, says Ms. Lucart has prepared an Excel spreadsheet. I think it needs to have the word "to" added to help organize the schedule of events. And then, as far as the events on the document list, that looked, I think, what I had in my notes.
Okay. I have nothing beyond that, so I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as amended.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll second. Any further discussion would be if we have a marked up copy that we'll add that as a document.
Okay.
And that way when they reprint the clean copy, Tom said he'd like a clean copy instead of a marked up copy, that'll show the changes we made.
Okay.
So we have both for
I'm
this
going to give
evening.
this to Jen because I saw you over there, Mary, with making the changes yourself on your copy, or no?
Oh, no, I didn't have a copy of that one here, but that's all right. I think Jen probably has that, so
So we'll make the modification pages of November 28th be a document then, for this meeting.
The draft,
The draft copy, right.
as we talked about last week, Mary, right?
yeah, so
So I'll give
the
you this copy.
modifications are a document for this meeting, and you can go ahead and make the changes, get them posted to town clerk, and that'll become a part of the documentation.
Right, this becomes part of the documentation.
Right.
So I'm confused, do you want it?
I'll take it first to make the market changes and then get it.
Thank you.
And I'll get you.
So the draft copy becomes the document with the markup. And then the clean copy, because don't make those corrections.
Jen, you didn't do this one, did you? Or-
No.
Okay,
Only started
Right, so
like 2 weeks
I'll
ago.
have that in my computer, I'll get it to Jen, or I'll do it, but we'll get them posted and we'll make that a document.
okay. And in the future, I know that, Mary, I was working with you a little bit on spelling and stuff, adding words to the dictionary and such. I mean, we've talked about spellers like Paulette's name a lot of times, so it shouldn't happen, right? I mean,
It shouldn't going forward, absolutely, and I don't even remember where these came from in particular. As you know, we've had a number of different people doing minutes at different times, so, but going forward.
and you know how to do that, Jen, right? You put it in the dictionary and such. Okay. Good. Thank you for doing that.
Mary, if I read aloud into the minutes, will that be helpful? Because I went through all of the minutes I had that I had printed out that are older, back from the time when it was just Ron and I thought if I read it out loud and Jen can annotate it in the minutes, it might make it easy when somebody wants to say, well, what piece was missing, since I've already done the legwork to look for them. And then if you find you've got, most of them are about documents, but if you find you have them, then we can proceed when they're available. Okay. Jen, the first set of minutes I'm talking about, well, we just did the 28th, so they're approved. No changes. Yeah, the minutes of 12:05, and we have the printed text, and we need the document list. There wasn't any document, so when we have that, then we can do the whole thing and approve it. Yeah, okay. Okay, I want to make sure. The next one I checked out was December 12th. We have the draft of the text, and we need the document list to go with that. So that's the only thing holding that up to bring them up and approve them. The minutes of 12:19, we approved the text, but we're still missing the document list, so it's sort of approved but incomplete without that list. The minutes of January, the minutes of January 2nd, 2013, we had approved the text, but we're still missing the document, so it's incomplete. The minutes of January 9th, we have the text, but we do not have a document list.
And is the text approved?
No, no. Only those other two that I mentioned.
Okay.
The minutes of January 16th, I don't have a draft or anything for those at all, so I don't know if the document list is on it, but I haven't seen a draft. And that's it, because there's a couple here so that we have draft copies of those. The minutes of July 25th, we had the draft and there was a paragraph to be fixed, and so that's incomplete. Let me see if it has a document list. And it doesn't have a document list. And the minutes of August 23rd, 2012, we don't have a draft. So we don't have documents either, I guess.
What was that last one?
August 23rd, 2012, we do not yet have a draft. And that's all I tracked down in terms of what we've had.
I wonder, Paulette, if, I appreciate your need to see them in advance, but there was one that was on one page.
Let's take it.
I mean, I think we could work through it, and it's actually the only one I had some issues with, so.
Which one you got? 20th? All right, let's give it
There's
a
the
try
one we
since
did
we
at
have
the
time.
school committee.
I'm sure they'll all enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Why don't you read it now? Give me
Okay.
my comments on it.
Oh, this was Mohawk, okay.
Right.
These are the minutes of February 20th when the board, select board and the finance committee went over to Mohawk to the public hearing they were holding about the school budget.
You have a copy, Jim?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple, and more of a format issue here than anything, because this would lead you to believe that we opened up a joint meeting in the superintendent's office, and not his office, but his conference room, and we didn't. We opened up I guess I'll just give you my comments.
Yes, you're right.
After the word Paulette Blue Card in the first paragraph, I would just add during a school committee meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the meeting was called to order at 7:20 by Paulette Blue Card during a school committee meeting. And the thing that was kind of confusing about this, both Jen and Mary, is that it looks like we had our meeting there. I don't know what the FinCom did during that first one.
And we don't have to address it.
And we don't have to address it. So what I did is I took, when you said the select board here, you have a sentence that says select board who was present. I tucked that underneath the Mohawk Trail Regional School public hearing because we were really opening up within their hearing. That's why I kind of felt like that would be.
Let's see. Jen, did you type these by any chance? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So, and then I took the FinCom portion and the select board, you know, those two sentences, and I tucked them underneath where we continued the meeting in the library at the school, because we really did have a joint meeting at that point, right?
Right.
I just wanted to match the agendas.
Yep. Because it was their school committee meeting, and they also had that public hearing going on at the same time.
So you said, yeah, that's right,
Public
school
hearing
committee
and
and public hearing.
It's hard to tell what one began and one left off. Okay, and then take and put select board and finance committee down at underneath the 907 to
Correct.
1010. That makes sense.
And I even said, and I'll just read a simple sentence here, following the school committee meeting, and you could say, the school committee meetings are usually public meetings anyways, but following the school committee meeting in the superintendent's conference room, comma, the select board and FinCom, and I'd say finance committee, met jointly in the library. I would just make a note of that in case.
I think that's good to have. Yeah.
And it's just like the preceding paragraph under that heading. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other thing I added that I had an issue with is under the paragraph that says finance committee motion, I said, the last sentence says, to see if any additional revenues could be obtained, and I added from the school district's E&D account, and that's excess and deficiency account, because I didn't listen to the recording, but I'm almost certain that David said that.
Yes.
To reduce the assessment to the towns.
Yep.
And that was the only sort of edits that I had on that. I thought it was pretty straightforward.
The only other part, I think, just because I wouldn't want
Yeah.
everybody to conclude if they read this that it was a big part of the discussion. I'm not sure likelihood of a 2.5 override was,
Reread that
it was more
possibility.
in kind of in passing, and it was somewhat about futures as well, because the school budget keeps going up and becomes such a heavy percentage. I don't know.
I think we could strike and likelihood and leave it as a possibility, if you're okay, because we did talk about the possibility of it,
Possibility of,
a 2.5 override.
and the likelihood was, I think the part of the conversation was more like, it wasn't really on the table, it was just what kind of things could we do regarding
To mitigate it.
the school cost.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want people to think we sat there and had a long discussion about it.
Yeah.
So,
So I would just strike the word in likelihood.
because, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities there. We talked,
Right.
you know, the cut of 1%, we did a whole bunch of things
Right.
regarding now and future, because it's such a big chunk.
Yeah.
So I could get a copy of your changes.
but
We
can-
could give it, maybe, I wonder if there's a possibility if Jen could type up this change. Oh, but you don't have a way to have her print. That wouldn't work. I was
Well,
gonna
what
say,
I do anyways, I've been sending them to Mary, and then Mary makes a few little edits here and there, and then she sends them to you guys. So the most recent copy that you just got is in Mary's computer anyway.
oh, it's on Mary's computer, really?
Right.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was on yours. Okay. All right. So before we leave, I'll just get a copy of this, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
Actually, I could probably just write this in, and then I don't have to.
Sure.
And then we put
I can,
that-
I
and then
can
we
send
can
you
give this
those,
to Mary.
I can send you those copies for making.
Where were you putting that again?
I was putting it right in
Oh,
here,
okay,
you know,
right
kind of
in
like
here.
the preceding paragraph, yeah, saying that we physically went somewhere else. And those are, there's some acronyms in there, you know,
Yeah.
select board and finance. Superintendent's conference room. Jointly, and that's saying the schools library. Sure.
So, I make a motion.
Did you get this one?
Yep.
Yeah.
We took out the likelihood. So I move that we accept the minutes of February 20th, 2013 as amended. The changes are on the draft copy, and the draft copy will be a document with the meeting minutes of March 4th, 2013.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Not for me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did we vote on the 28th?
We did.
We did a first and a second. Did we vote?
You asking me? I have the most volatile memory in the world. Do you have that we voted on the last set of minutes?
We did vote.
Okay.
I just momentarily thought maybe we didn't vote. I know
No.
we did a first and a second. Mary, he's going to Jen? Thank you.
Yeah.
This one's showing now.
Oh, okay.
since we're still waiting for Tom, is there another one at Shore?
Yes,
Try to do?
The, one of the
The
13th
13th was
is
shorter.
pretty short.
Okay. Sorry, please bear with us while we read minutes. This is February 13th. That was a Wednesday.
It was a joint meeting with the FinCom.
Jen, while you're typing, I didn't say it, but I think on the last one, would you please also just correct any name spelling for me that you see? There's one here as well. I think there was one in the last one too. Paulette with 2 L's.
I think if Word encounters, if Microsoft Word encounters a word many, many times, that it automatically adds it to the dictionary.
I
And so,
just did it tonight.
if it was misspelled as Paulette in the past, you wouldn't get any correction underneath it. So you might want to try to rectify that.
I turn the page over, just a question. As you read this, to buy a generator for the fire department and town hall, as you read that, would you understand that to be one? It's a generator that would function for
Service
both?
both. Yeah, I don't.
No misunderstanding, it's two.
Why don't we edit that to say, to buy a generator that would service both the fire department and town hall, if you're
Okay.
okay with that.
Sure. We're on the February 13th minutes. Jen, we're at the very bottom of the last document, emergency management director.
She's got it.
I got it.
Okay.
Buy a generator that would service both.
Right.
We'll take out 4.
Yeah. For
Both
that.
the fire department and town hall.
Okay.
Thank you. Sewer Commission Document 8, Leukart, L-E-U-K. I'm done reading, if you're ready for me.
Okay. So I'll make a motion.
Okay,
that we accept the minutes of February 13th as amended and documented.
I second. Any further discussion?
None by me.
We'll include the draft as a document with the minutes for 3/4/13. Okay.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You want to look at that? Or you want to submit yours? Just do that.
Jen, do you want his copy?
I don't need a copy, I have my own.
Oh, you've got, okay. She's got her own, is that the copy you're going to use as a document? Okay, great. Okay. On the documents. Yes.
Okay.
We did vote, right? Jen? We
What?
did, we just voted. Or
Yes.
did we stop
You
in the
did.
middle? Okay.
You did.
I thought we
Sorry.
did, and I got lost. Just like that.
That's good. So the outstanding one is February 25th, and we'll
Right.
go through that and have it next
Yeah.
time, I guess.
It's a little long. Okay. So, albeit Tom is not here yet, we could look at the FERCog procurement services. Is that what this one is, Mary? And hold on the warrant to give him time to get here.
Although, just so you know, he was not certain he would get here and felt that we could go through whatever business there was and then go if he wasn't here.
Oh, all right,
He had no way of knowing if he would.
if he would make it.
Right.
Okay.
And felt that, again, tonight could be a shorter meeting. The
If he didn't make
focus
it.
is going to be on tomorrow night.
Okay. This is from FERCog, Chief Procurement Officer Andrea Woods. The subject is number 2, fuel oil, gasoline, and diesel, FY 2014.
And I didn't actually have a chance to look and compare. I'm assuming that the estimates there are from FY12 rather than FY13, because in FY13 we did not participate for this portion of the procurement.
That's what I was
Service.
thinking, is we didn't use their fuel oil, gasoline, and diesel quoting process.
Right. Although we continue to use it for highway materials.
Right, I remember that. But this part doesn't include that highway material that I can see. That must be under a separate item, because I don't see it.
I'd suggest that maybe we wait for Tom on this, since he's the liaison with the highway barn to the department, to get his input maybe.
Then that's fine. And my recollection is last year when we looked at this, Tom had gone out, and because you pay to go into the bid process, and I believe Tom last year was able to get bids for the gasoline and the diesel with perhaps people he'd used before, and came up with a favorable price. I know I saw the fuel oil, I think when I last looked at it, that was on the warrant, was like $3.59 a gallon or something, that I recall. And I think he did, I'm pretty sure he did his own last year, because he takes all the delivery and then charges back to the fire department, the police department, when they fill up and get fuel. And then whoever we contracted with to do the oil for the heating systems.
Here in the market.
Right.
And this year it was quite
It was Whiting Mission.
See, it would seem to me, and I've just looked at this quickly, that there's these check marks on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 different scenarios, and I think the second one, if we choose to utilize the bids received by FERCog, we do not authorize Franklin or FERCog to contract on our behalf. We will be responsible for administering the contract. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to leverage all the towns to get the best price, and then you have a chance. And that's exactly when I came last year, was when you decided not to take it because you could get it cheaper. So this might just be a bid process that we're involved with here.
Right, and you pay $150 for products, so you have to pay $150 to even get into the bid process.
Oh,
For
okay.
fuel, for gasoline, for diesel, so that was $450. That may have been the other factor, but you're right.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that at that time, either before that, Norm, maybe it was Doug, had talked with them and Tom opted that way. But I'm sure it needs to be discussed with him again to see if he wants to do this or whether he wants to get the bids himself.
So can we have that brought up at next Monday's meeting?
Sure. Because we want to find out from Tom person.
Well, we could even bring it up tomorrow quickly if we, because we want to see
If we have a few minutes at the end? Sure. Sure. At least review it, and then if he's got to talk to Tom about anything, he could add that to it. That's probably a good idea. We could probably steal a few minutes at the end.
So we couldn't,
Tomorrow to
yeah,
talk about it.
okay.
Just to bring it up, and because he's not here to get
Or
his
even
copy.
hand it to him, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
not to deliberate on it, but just to
Right.
have him talk to Tom. Okay. Did you have any sense, Mary, did he sound hopeful that he might be here? I was gonna hold the warrant just till the last thing in case he made it.
I didn't talk to him today when I last spoke to him.
Okay.
He didn't really know, he didn't have a way of gauging it.
It's okay with you, why don't I just hold the warrant, then we'll do that last and go down and see if there's anything
That's
else. And
fine.
if he makes it, he makes it, if he doesn't, he doesn't.
Yep.
There is no new business scheduled. Liaison reports?
I have, I'll touch base with one thing. Joe Judd, at the school committee meeting that we were both at, had requested that we have an informal get-together, and requested of the select board last week, and I went and, as more just as a citizen than anything, and it's not a formal committee, so there's no agenda and there's no open meeting law doesn't pertain to it or anything like that. But present was Bob Ashbeck, is that his name? The chair of the school committee, was going to be there, but because of the snowstorm, the school committee meeting, which was normally on Wednesday, got postponed to Thursday. And that was when that meeting was, so he couldn't show. So Joe Judd, Kevin Fox maybe, and Julie, I don't know her name, select woman from Heath, was there. And we rescheduled the meeting basically to when Bob could attend.
Okay.
We didn't have Bob there, so we didn't really have a date certain.
Okay.
So I'm just quickly reporting back on that, and the discussion centered around the issues with the school committee and the increase in assessment for Ashfield this year, and the increase in assessment for everyone, of course, also. Nothing was determined at the meeting. It was just more talking points. And so I look forward to reporting back when something more formal is presented. And I have something, nothing was distributed. There was some discussion of some of the outstanding comments. There was some uncertainty on different things. So it was more of a get-together meeting than anything.
And I understand from that email from Emily,
Yeah.
from that school committee then on the 28th,
Right.
is that the budget that was approved went up an additional $80,000, which is adding another roughly $14,500
To our
to
assessment.
Ashfield's assessment.
Correct.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that was her email.
That's right, and we've gotten that formally.
Right, and so when we do the school in a couple of weeks, that'll have the increase over what we brought back.
That's over
from
what
the
we've
12.
already discussed, which was somewhere between 93 and 100, so depending on whether we're looking at the 93 or the 100 plus 14 something.
14.5 was changed, yes. So it went up. Had an email from Chief Droney, which I think you
Okay.
probably got a copy of as well, that he had put in for the grant, but because Maya had already approved a grant for a trailer, I think it's to go at an accident site or something like that, it's not just a travel trailer, that his was disapproved, so he'll have to reapply after July 1, because the funds are used up.
Okay.
But he felt actually that it was a good conversation and that there would be more money at that time and some more things he could do than what he discussed when he
Oh,
came for us.
Good. I didn't talk to Del, I don't know, has Del said anything to you about the truck by any chance? I didn't get that.
I saw him a couple times today, but no, he didn't say anything about the truck specifically.
I'm sure if it was here and parked in the garage, I know. So I assume it's not here yet. We've got mail. You get the same piece of mail?
I did.
It is a letter to the board. Basically, my interpretation of the gist of this, and maybe you want to go first?
Well, it's a letter from Suzanne Corbett to the board. And I would say that she doesn't think that our agenda was specific enough relative to some discussion that we had on general select board policy.
And so it's a reminder to be more specific. It's not an open meeting law violation complaint. It's just a reminder, and so advised, because you're supposed to be specific. And if we've got something we're going to discuss, we're supposed to have them on there. So it's just a letter. It's not an OML complaint. Oh, yes.
I don't want it to be interpreted, Paulette, that I agree with her, that we're posting it to the
Right.
to the minutes.
I agree from the standpoint that it's a reminder to make sure we continue to be specific, that part.
I appreciate all the reminders we can get. So helps us do our job better.
It's not a complaint, it's just a reminder to make sure we do it. I know when I read that on the agenda, I didn't know what we were going to talk about either, so it's not an unfair request by any means, for me. And if you see it differently, that's okay.
I think what it comes down to is, because I want to perform correctly on our board, I think that perhaps there's a certain amount of latitude is afforded, and my interpretation, and we have a number of open meeting law courses coming up, I think on May 15th. It could be a very good question to ask, but certainly you try to be as specific as you can on your agenda, but there is latitude afforded to go off also. And I have to admit, I don't agree with her letter. I appreciate it, but I don't agree with it. So it'd be a good question to ask the AG's office on May 15th.
So what we're looking at here is a FERCog listing of 2-hour seminars they're giving at different times that have been shared with the select board and other committees, and the one Ron is talking about is this one here.
Right, May 15th. And it's actually the AG office coming to speak to us, speak to FERC and anyone who participates in open meeting law, who, what, where, when, and why.
So this is the one.
And it's 6 o'clock, it starts.
Oh,
This is the one that starts at 6.
starts at 6. This
Yeah.
says 7.
See
But
right
it's
here?
6.
They changed it, it was a last minute.
Oh, this must
change.
be an old one.
Yeah.
Okay. So duly noted. So Wednesday, May 15th, 6 to 9 p.m. That's the one we talked about several times, just as a reminder to share. And, you know, I think you've said it, all the boards and committees, to remind them that this is coming, and as many of us as want to attend, I believe they said could attend. You had called them to check on that, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, I told them I'd give them some idea. I've also sent this out to all boards and committees, so they have the full schedule. Just made a note, maybe I'll send an early reminder now, and then one closer to the time, but a reminder now to maybe get it on the calendar.
What I would like to do differently than that
Sure.
is I would like to have the chair maybe, or you, Mary, I don't care, send to the chairs of all the committees and ask who from the committee will be attending. It's important for the town to be educated on these policies, and if they send only one, if it's just a chair or a designated representative, that's fine, but I don't want it just to fall on deaf ears. And we had good attendance at the one in, give me a town,
That's
Worthington?
Oh, Worthington.
Huntington, was it Huntington?
Huntington.
Huntington, a long time ago, we were over half the participants there. I think once a year it's a good idea.
Because it says what it's going to cover is executive session, hosting meetings, taking minutes, discussion outside of meetings, and more.
And one of the things we could bring up is that whole executive session issue that we got some information on, and try to memorialize that whole thing.
Okay, but it's at 6 o'clock, so
6
it's going to be a
o'clock.
little longer. Wednesday, May 15th.
It's 6 to 8, actually.
Oh, it's 6 to 8, not 6 to 9?
You're right.
Okay.
I think they did that to accommodate the Attorney General's
Oh,
folks.
because they're traveling.
Yeah.
Okay. Stand corrected. 6 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday, May 15th.
Yeah.
So there's one next week, Thursday, March 14th. Is the time still the same on your copy?
Yes, it
7 to
is.
9?
That's the only one that changed.
Assessing liability and managing risk for your town, co-sponsored by Maya. What are all the ways in which your town could be liable, and how can you minimize that risk? Someone from from Maya will be there, Robert Marinelli. And the one on Thursday, April 4th, is liquor and licensing, your select board's role, best practices for select board responsibilities as the town's licensing board, the regional alcohol sales MOU, alcohol sales rates in your town, and more. Investigator, Mass ABCC, Brad Doyle.
Separate subject.
Sure,
On this,
I'm done with that one.
when we had this get-together that I just mentioned, Jen, I didn't know Sheila's last name. It was Sheila Litchfield, and I didn't want it to go unsaid, and it was Kevin Fox of Buckland and Joe Jett. Okay, well, thank you.
I'm just going to hold off one more moment. If we have time, is there anybody for public comment? Bill?
First of all, I want to know what happened to the agenda item of talking points about the warrant for the special town meeting.
It's right here for this evening?
Yeah,
Is that the one you're talking about? I was just holding it for last in case Tom could make it, but if he doesn't, then that's...
well, since this is the public comment period, I'll make a couple of possible suggestions for talking points. One is that the organizations that you guys are targeting are two of the apart from the town, are two of the organizations that are very active in getting grants for towns. And because of the shenanigans of this group, I think that a lot of the granting agencies are somewhat gun shy of giving any money to Ashfield. And I think that that should be pointed out in your meeting, because in addition to us having to spend an extraordinary sum of money defending ourselves against this, we also run the risk of losing an extraordinary amount of money in grant funding, because who would actually want to deal with Ashfield? So that's one thing I would point out. And let's see, there was something else. No, your truck is not here yet. There was an ambulance call today, and you could hear the truck coming. It was louder than the siren. One of the organizations that is under attack is the same organization that is training you in select board open meeting laws and bidding and all this other kind of stuff. So I would hope that, I mean, I certainly understand the need for the money because, you know, we have excessive lawyer bills and, you know, time constraints. What I've never understood about this is what the goal is of this particular group in submitting all of these complaints and submitting all these document requests, many of which are never picked up. And that kind of comes to the bottom line of the thing is, why would somebody do this? And maybe at town meeting, because I know this question would come up, maybe somebody from that cabal could give us some reasons. I mean, what's the motive? What's the goal behind this deluge of stuff that us and Franklin County Housing and the Council of Governments? Because that's something I don't understand. If it's a valid, good reason, I have no problem, you know, appropriating the money. If it's needed, if it's a good thing for the town, if it's helpful, then I think by all means we should, you know, raise the money. But I don't, it's hard for me to understand what the goal is. It appears to be just disruption. It appears to be purely negative, but I may be missing something. So I think, you know, if I know you work with them in attacking some of the other organizations, so maybe one of you could talk about what is the goal.
Did you just say, I work with them to attack some other organizations?
Yes, I did.
Interesting. A little misguided, but
Well,
I'm not going to argue with you.
you are the signatory of a lot of the document requests, et cetera, you know, building inspector program, health district, and stuff like
A
that.
lot is an overstatement.
Okay, one other thing, I attended a meeting on Thursday at the Council of Governments. They are announcing a new health district, which they have formed, which currently includes 10 towns, and it will be great aids to their boards of health, and it's formed under Chapter 40, Section 4, which makes it different from other health districts. The Lieutenant Governor was there, and it was greatly complimentary. And then after the meeting, the health agents took the Lieutenant Governor out to do a kitchen inspection at a local restaurant so that he knew the kind of thing that was going on. So, I mean, I'm just letting you know that it was a really good meeting. And Tim Murray was very impressed.
Good, thank you. Betty?
This is kind of like a lot of what Bill was talking about. The same group caused people quite some time back to get rid of the current health agent for Brooklyn. At that time, Duncan, as chair of Board of Health, had attended
months and months. It was well over a year of meetings. He went most of the time, twice a month. He was put on a subcommittee to investigate this community health bill. The town of Ashfield lost out on thousands of dollars that would have helped the local Board of Health. There would have been access to a public health nurse. There would have been access to other programs that would have helped the local Board of Health. But at the time, the select board said, no, we're getting rid of the whole thing without even investigating what they were giving up. Becca can tell you how much time he spent. He's very diligent, had to go in the daytime sometimes to the subcommittee. And it was an extremely well-organized investigation of how this organization could help the local boards of health, because they knew that in this area there sometimes is a lack because of the distance from facilities. And they knew the need that you needed to work together and they wanted to help all the towns out.
Thank you. All right. Tom didn't make it, so I guess we'll do it. We're looking, I'll have to bring this up with Tom tomorrow, but when we were looking over the minutes of the 28th, I noticed that for the special town meeting and for the caucus, we voted. And when we signed the documents last week for the special town meeting and the caucus, we did not. I don't know, we didn't vote. If you look at the 28th, we voted for the special town meeting to post the warrant roll, and we did the same thing for the caucus on the 28th. But when we were doing this last week, we didn't vote on either of them. We just signed the papers. But we never had a vote to do the warrants. And I don't know. I honestly do not know. So, I don't know what the fix is for that. And I didn't, when we were just doing the 28th and I was thinking back to last week, I realized the papers just came and we just signed and they moved on, but we never brought them up amongst ourselves for a vote.
Is that one of the minutes we received? Just out of curiosity, I was going to look in there and see what it said. When was it, the 28th?
Yeah.
Most recently, it was.
You're right. You're right, it's here, and I'm right, we didn't vote for either. And I say that only because as long as I've been involved, we've always taken a vote for them, to post them, to sign them. It was a new business. And it was only contrasted when we did the 28th.
But perhaps our signature, even though it's done in the past, I'm not saying, I'm not justifying it,
No,
correct. Perhaps our signature validates the motion. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Because
We'll
we
have to
all
find
approve.
out.
Yeah, that could be a good question. What's your thoughts on that, Mary?
I don't know, I haven't listened to the meeting, so I don't know about that detail, and I don't know, I would have to look into it.
I would, Jen did these, right? Jen did, if we voted, I mean, she's been, you know, she's, everywhere else where we voted, she's got it listed, so I would think if we voted, it would be there, so I'm not doubting that. I'm just concerned that, does that make a difference that we did not vote?
And I don't know, I'll find out.
Too close to those.
I think you may have voted to hold the meeting at a prior meeting of yours,
Possibly.
and that's why you would only have had to sign the papers at that.
We didn't have anything before us, then no, that was just that one time. with the information on it and with the dollar figures on it. But that's the
Yeah,
question.
can go back and try to trace it through and see.
But the question to also ask, please, because it'd be nice to keep things streamlined. If you're asking town council, it is just our signatures, you know, do they weigh in as a vote would? So into the one.
Maybe it's going to the Yeah. I think that was the first time we had that warrant in front of us because we had a short schedule. So I'm not aware we voted before that. We talked about doing it, but I don't know that we voted. But I could.
Well, we set a date for,
We set a
to
date.
start off the back.
If it's an issue, I just want to make sure we get ahead of it. And when we did the 28th, I realized that. Okay. To see if the town will vote to transfer up to $5,000 from free cash to legal expense or act relative thereto. Motion, I move the town transfer $5,000 from free cash to legal expense.
And then, actually, I had hoped to bring you something with talking points in it. Was not possible to do today. I'm hoping I'll have it to bring to both boards tomorrow night, but I thought in the meantime, you could suggest talking points or fill in, and also we could figure out who among the three of you will make which motions. I think that Tom would probably, from what I understand, would probably like to make the motion for Article 2. Good.
All right. Well, rather than, we'll look through them if we have anything to add for talking points, give them to you, but not spend a lot of time if we're going to go over it tomorrow anyway.
Okay, but I'll have to try to have it for the meeting tomorrow night, so if you have points that you think are important, right, questions you want to have answered as part of the talking points, that would help.
When we did in December, and we only had one item, it's sort of, and
Same
it's good
mentality.
practice for any time.
Yeah.
So number 3 is transfer $3,000 from free cash to special project staffing fund. 4 is $1,000 from building inspection to elections expense. 5, transfer $3,300 from building inspection to fire department grant match. I suppose I could take that one, Mary.
Would be great.
Since I gave this one to the fire department. We're going to transfer $4,500 from building inspection to tree warden. And the last one is to see if the town will transfer $6,700 of funds to the police department, $1,791 from the vehicle, $909 from the fuel, $4,000 from tax tag expenses. Did you see them? You would like
Yeah,
to put
I
your
mean,
name on?
probably this tree warden one, I'd be glad to
Okay, go on.
try to get up to speed on.
And it comes up, if I recall, the tree committee when it was formed. There's also a law regarding trees and all. They got involved with that, and they did the new trees on the greens
Sure.
that had died, so I don't think it was, well, it's all part of it. It was related to the trees.
No, just help me out a little bit on this. This, when you say talking points, it's up to a select board person to represent this to the general public at this meeting, correct? And to explain it.
And
Make the
when,
motion.
You make the motion.
and usually there'll be a document for you with just some bullets with some items, but it's not that you have to read that or just do that. There's just some information that you might want to have there.
I recall
For
that
two-
last time.
Right, answer
And
questions.
Tom said there was some more trees that are
Yeah,
slightly a hazard in
Yeah.
a heavy storm or something.
I'll chat it up with him too before that, so.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I'm not really familiar with the purpose of the building inspection fee last year, but I think I understood that it was in the event that we were going to have our own, that we provided for some monies on that line item.
Right, so from that line item, if we had decided that we wanted to do something on our own, there would be enough money.
To do that.
And if not, then there was enough money to pay the $6,500 to FERCog to stay with their program.
Okay,
And
and
we
a little
also-
excess.
Right, and we voted to stay with their program,
Right.
it came through, remember the 6,500,
Right.
and we went through that contract.
Oh, okay, yeah,
And so that's where the excess is right now.
okay.
Reminds me, Mary, they've never come back with the contract for our accounting.
Oh, and I do get in touch with
Bob Dean.
Bob Dean every few weeks, just saying we
Okay.
really would love to sign it. We know we held you up for many, many months, but we are eager to get it signed, and thank you for continuing to provide the service in the absence of the signed contract. But I haven't heard back from him, and we'll try to call him sometime, but mostly I've just sent emails at this point.
Right, because the last time, if I recall, he wanted to make some changes, so we were waiting for him to do something with the
No,
contract.
I believe the last time we had sent back a contract marked up with changes that we had, that the board had come up with, and he needed time to see how that would work with his
He
contract.
must have done it more than once, because I remember it came back, but then it went back again, so I think it's been a couple times. But I thought the last time that I recall, he had something he wanted to do or needed to do, so we were just waiting patiently. But whatever it is.
Yeah, I
as long
thought he
as-
was basically in agreement with it, and that he had seen similar responses from other towns, that's my recollection, and just had to do some last minute.
Right, but
But we're okay.
we haven't gotten that,
Yeah.
and as I say, I do keep reminding him that we would be happy to sign it. I mean, we'd like to get it taken care of, because they have continued to provide the services.
Right, and if he was anxious, I'm sure he'd be calling us. So, okay, it just reminded me that was out there.
Yep, but now every few weeks I see if we can get that onto the agenda.
Well, Ron,
Mhm.
we can always pick a few for us and give the rest to Tom. Teach him not to be here. So we've got two that, we've got police and we've got the election expense.
Why don't I take the elections, I'm sure the liaison can use, if that's okay. Which one is that? Where's the election?
Number
Right there.
4,
Okay.
and I believe that's because we have some extra elections this year.
Yeah.
actually. And there is, on the town website, the town clerk has put something out there about the upcoming
Oh, okay.
4 elections.
I'll check it out. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
And so
I
Paulette
just saw that.
put you on Article 7 with the
Why don't
police
we
as
put me
your
on
liaison?
7?
Okay.
And
And
we will
then
give,
Tom will take the top 2.
we'll give Tom 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
We'll give him all 3. He's good. He gets one more than us.
Yeah.
How's that?
Good.
If he thinks he wants to speak about one of the others of these tomorrow, we can always change it. That seems fine. Okay.
And if either of you think of anything you would like to see on the document, although there'll be time for me to add it after tomorrow night's meeting too, so. And I was just going to see, did you get the notice of the Select Board Association meeting? I forwarded that to your emails.
Yeah.
It's tomorrow. No, it's Thursday, but it was only sent out at the end of last week,
Oh,
so
that one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Can I
Hampshire?
just borrow
It's
your
in-
copy for a minute?
Sure, it's in Northampton at the Blue Bottom Diner. And, as I said,
Oh, Hampshire
it's
County
attached
Select Board
behind the
Association.
gate with the notice
Okay.
that somehow they left.
Yeah, that's Hampshire County, I didn't know they usually invited us.
Well, no, maybe, is it joint? Because,
It just says Hampshire County.
I get all their emails. I mean, they've reached out to me on several different ones.
yeah, and they do reach out to us on a number of things. There's some things coming up, but
There was
you're
one-
right, it is. I was conflating it with the other one, so.
But there is another one that was going around, and I thought it was MMA. And they were holding breakfast in different locations. Why do I think there was one in Pittsfield?
There was one, I almost went and I had to cancel last minute, last Friday morning, and it was going to be in the valley here.
Okay.
And it was an MMA breakfast meeting. I've attended 2 of those before, but this one I had signed up for, but I had a situation come up that I couldn't make it.
I gotta look again. One came, and I thought there was one a little bit
I do have
later
those
on.
there somewhere if you want to see them. They were held in like 5 different places.
I
Next,
thought there was one in March, somewhere in Pittsfield, or near us, but maybe it was the one in the
yeah,
valley.
I have it right there. Hold on.
Okay, right.
And
Do you have anything else there?
just another mail, there's a Mass Broadband 123 meeting in Buckland, March 6th.
Well, that's Wednesday. Yes. And they've got a meeting from 3 to 5,
Now,
and a public meeting from 6 to 8.
yeah, and I did also talk to Sharon today at Mass Broadband, and she would like to set up a meeting with a member of the select board and a member of the community access point buildings, firehouse, town hall, and library for some time, I think, in April. So I have that information. I'll be setting that up, but that will be more specific to our town. And she said this is sort of more general, just to give you a sense of which meeting or both.
I know David, I see David Culp is on the list. That's what I was looking to see who else was on the list. Oh, this went out to people in Conway. I don't know what that is. Deerfield, whether it's South Deerfield, Conway, and Ashfield. Mohawk Schools. So Mass Broadband is meeting 3 to 5, having a meeting 6 to 8, public meeting for the general public, update on Mass Broadband 123 fiber optic network, and some other items they've got on their list for their meeting agenda.
And what Sharon had to say today, Sharon at Mass Broadband, is that the community access points here in town, and there are 3 of them, should be connected end of May, beginning of June. And now that's just the community access points as opposed to sites being more broadly available.
So that's the fire station, the town hall, and the library.
Mhm.
One thing else I'm doing there about the school, Sanderson,
Well, if
because there was talk about being able to get from the highway to the school.
They are doing the schools.
they are, it's not an Ashfield community access point. We
No,
have
that's
3, so it's a
regional.
district.
That would be the school district. Sanderson. So they'd be communicating that with them. This one is from Christine Hatch, Outreach Manager, Mass Broadband Institute. Thank you. Tom, do you have anything else?
Yeah, a while ago, Katrina Urian came to us, and she wanted to be, I assume one of these minutes that Paulette has,
And I talked to Katrina this afternoon.
okay.
She said she'd like to see about getting on an agenda, not for the 11th, but a meeting after that, one or two of the meetings after that. So I have a couple of dates from her. Thought I would run it by the chair, see where. And she said she felt she was unclear about whether or not the board understood what she wanted in an addendum. I told her I hadn't worked on that, it hadn't been done. Her first concern was that it had been done and she wasn't aware of it. I said that it hadn't been done to my knowledge. I don't think that's in the 28th that you just looked at.
Well,
No.
And so she said she would prefer to have a chance to talk to the board again before anything happens.
oh, okay. I just didn't want to forget that that was something on the to-do list.
And she had talked to us on January 16th about that, and the dates she had were November 7th, October 17th, and October 10th that she had concerns for.
Do you want to read those dates?
Sure. When she came to us, it was January 16th
Right.
of 13. And November 7th was the first one, and October 17th and October 10th were the meetings that she mentioned that evening.
Okay, when we talked this afternoon, I thought she said there was one set of meetings that she wanted to see an addendum for, but I'll check back with her.
The one that I have highlighted as the first one she mentioned that may go with that was November 7th. But since I didn't hear what date she said today, I'm just...
She didn't say a date, she actually said she couldn't remember the date.
That evening she mentioned November 7th, and then
Okay.
the other two not to.
I was actually under the impression that there were minutes we had either reviewed in draft or finalized, and that her concern was that it wasn't done appropriately. So it might have been not one of the ones that Paulette suggested that we haven't completed. It might have been one that we approved. I can't recall.
And maybe there was more than one discussion.
It was just one particular meeting.
Different.
I believe she was put on the agenda. I believe she addressed the board, and she felt like either the documents weren't included or appropriate attention wasn't paid to that.
Right, I mean, what we discussed today was that she had hoped to see an addendum to a particular set of minutes.
Oh, so that's what it was. They were approved, and she thought that they...
Exactly, and she couldn't remember which set of minutes. I said I couldn't offhand either, so.
Okay.
Those are the ones I wrote down that day. And yeah, I had an arrow next to November 7th as if that was the one when she first spoke. She was most interested in, so maybe that's the one. And I'll look through and see if I have my copy of the minutes, you do, and we can always look at those. You have those dates as well.
Yep.
Right, okay. I don't have anything else.
Next week's agenda, have you indicated to Tom that Sanderson retaining wall?
I did.
The lake?
Both of those items.
And I'll present, it'd just be a thumbnail sketch of where we stand on that,
Yeah, and I haven't heard back from him confirming what will be on that agenda.
That's
but
fine, if he wants to put
He
it
does
up,
have,
he can put it
he
up.
does have those two as items
Okay.
for that agenda.
It's about the dam, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
And the wall?
Well, it's a dam and a dike,
Right.
it's that engineering report.
And it's the wall in the road over at Sanderson,
It's just a retention wall
the retention.
by the old Sanderson School. And I'll present some exhibits. I don't have all the information. I mean, it really should be put off for a couple more months so I can get some stuff from Alden, but since it could affect our budget, Tom indicated the desire to see it sooner than later.
Okay. And there was a second part of that, but if I'm not mistaken, is a much longer project that we're gonna hope to get a grant for if they could, where the runoff from the lake runs in under that house and all of that's different than that dam road.
It is.
Right. Because I don't believe that dam report gives any report about that.
There's some indication of it going under. I read it several months ago now, but it doesn't pick it out as being the concern for the change
Right.
in status.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, Mary? All right, all being said,
Motion that we adjourn this meeting?
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:35 PM. Monday, March 4th, 2013.
See you tomorrow, right?
Yes.
At the room.
7:15, we gave